already at that point. We got a show to do. So much show to do. Hi, everybody. Welcome to the show. It's House Parks Mega Worldwide. It's a Thursday. We start a little later. We go a little later. I've had a full day already. 2 promo moments, gigs, things, appearances. What do we want to call them? I don't care. To promote the Nerd Halen gig this Saturday. Good times. It's nice to be back on midday entertainment television and the conversations that ensue before and after the interview, which are a rarity. Hi, everybody. Welcome. Glad you could be here. It's a good time. All right. Hey, thanks. Yeah, it's a little chilly down here, so I'm wearing a jacket right now. Don't get too excited. I might have to take it off midway through the show because the computer gets very hot, warms the room up quite a bit. Right now, it's chilly. Good to see you. Welcome. Glad you could be here. So
the server's reset?
I very seldom am I speechless, and so I'm never speechless. I just sometimes will say, really, a lot. Or and in this particular case, remember the idea that was floated around that they're using, that someone planted the documents at Biden's office because Democrats are scheming to get rid of him, which on the one hand is lunatic sauce, but on the other hand,
weird.
While it's also being lunatic sauce, it is concurrently I guess a get out of jail free card for Joe Biden because he's not committing a crime. He's being set up by apparently the far left, who apparently up to this point he's been the puppet of, right? They've been marionetting him this whole time, and yet now they're concerned because his poll numbers are going up that if he runs again, he might lose to Donald Trump, whose poll numbers are dying and is planning, and I think Raw Story put it best, is planning a scorched earth campaign against DeSantis. So, in that context, apparently they are. That's when the Democrats decided to pounce. Are we caught up? Because that's a real thing. All right. Now, there's a lot to get to today. Now, meanwhile, one person who doesn't believe that is, oh crap, they got the wrong screen again. Hold on. I had an update, and then my computer gets all confused. Why you get so confused, computer? Why, computer, are you so confused? Now I gotta fix this thing by doing this thing. Take around me so I know what the buttons are, and now I'm better. We go to this, we go to this thing, and finding the thing. Alright. And this guy. There we go. Is this guy. Nope. Is this guy. Yes, there we go. Okay. This is what I meant to do. Hey, this guy doesn't know what's going on. All right, along with me as I'm trying to figure this shit out. One of these days I'll have one of those crews that flips all the switches for you. Never. All right. I'm too much of a control freak. Seriously. So where was I? Oh yes, welcome to the show. Don't forget to hit the thumbs up, by the way, at the beginning of the show. Really helps build that crowd in here. You know, get some people in here noticing the place. Because I mean, if we don't do that, there ain't no way people are gonna find it. We are in. Listen here, we up there near like 47K supporters, but we in the swampland. We in the deep reeds, son. We up in the hills of the internet, okay? And the only thing gonna let people know we're here, besides the smell, is of course gonna be if y'all light a fire. So. Come on, light that fire up, give them thumbs. Come on, that's how we do it. Now, thank you, Ficus. Now, this, CSL and I are both under the same theory that that Trump does these videos at Mar-a-Lago 2 at a time, because he's always wearing the same tie for 2 of them in a row, and they just knock him out, and then he goes back to golfing or whatever the fuck. And he hates doing them. You can tell they're uncomfortable. They have to do a lot of cutting. We've seen that already. And because he does that like lurchy shit with his whole body, like it's amazing. But I think my favorite thing is when the words seem to hurt. Some of the words just look like they like something's lodged in someplace and they won't come out. The other thing I have the theory is that they have to do these to justify campaign expenditures. So if he cranks these out, then technically speaking, he can use these as evidence when he drops out and people go, wait a minute, this motherfucker was never going to run for president in the first place. He was just gathering money and then he never spent it on a real campaign. And they sue him and then they can't do anything because he's got a bunch of these stupid 2-minute videos. Okay, so, and they all start with this weird silent graphic. What a cheap son of a bitch. Like, you're a billionaire in theory. Wouldn't you buy a theme song outright for your stuff? Wouldn't you just have a composer? Shit, you'd probably do it in a foreign country so you wouldn't have to pay residuals. Hire the Hungarian Philharmonic to play a few notes for you. Play it at the top and bottom. Right? I mean, if you're a billionaire, what the shit? All right. He's not. So, is the point. But here we go. Oh, and this is him leaving and saying goodbye and saying hello. But the closest picture they had of him doing a Hitler salute, believe me, that the hand's going to start drooping down over time just to, massage the base. Oh, shit. And God knows. All right, here we go. We have 2 standards.
Standards of justice in our country.
Regular and unleaded.
One for people like you and me.
There are no people like you. Don't fucking drag me into your personal hell, you dumb motherfucker. There's maybe for pussy grabbers and dudes who've been trying to like dodge sexual assault claims their whole fucking life. Guys who used campaign funds to pay off prostitutes and porn stars and abortions and all kinds of shit. People who signed Bill Clinton when they flew to Epstein's Island. Like, that'll get them. That kind of shit. Like, that. There's no you and me. I don't know where the fuck. How did this motherfucker become blue collar all of a sudden? People like you and me who really have to, get their lawyers off of late night infomercials, and people who choose their friends by who they see praising them on television. That's how you know a friend is a friend.
And one for the corrupt political class, of which there are many.
There are many corrupt political classes. I think he means members of that political class. Like, there's a lot of people in that particular class. But I'm just gonna, for you and I'm gonna go with, he just thinks there's like one shitty little tier with you and me and him. We're all alone and we get stomped on by the man. And then everybody else gets their own little division, of which there are many. I don't know what I just said. Sorry.
Oh, God damn it.
At the very same moment when my ultra-secure Mar-a-Lago home was raided by the FBI.
Okay, first of all, never raided. They got a search warrant. They knocked. They were allowed in. Nobody came in through a fucking skylight. Nobody busted in through the fucking sewers like it's the goddamn Rock. It wasn't a raid. They didn't just, everybody on the fucking floor, back it, like, get the fuck out of here. They served the warrant. His lawyer made phone calls. It was boring as shit. And calling it a raid is a middle finger to the FBI agents who acted very professionally. So fuck him and fuck that. And secondly, ultra secure. Do I have to bring up Anna de Rothschild again? The motherfucker rents the place out. What's ultra secure about that? The Secret Service doesn't vet every guest for every fucking wedding.
Joe Biden was harboring classified documents in his China-funded Penn Center.
He was harboring them like fugitives, and at his China-funded Penn Center. Obviously, Penn State had no say in it. China funded it. This is why, if you look, it's why all he's done since he got in office is kiss China's ass. Tweeting out things like, I think she is being very professional about the whole COVID thing. Oh, wait, that's me. Oh, shit. So I got into it on Truth Social, kind of for the fun of it, because it was kind of stupid. I decided, if you ever go on Truth Social, God forbid, and you look at most of what Trump posts is like retruths of other people's memes that support him, and these accounts, and all of the ones that post these, they're all like Patriot Dog and USA #1 fucking account, whatever. They're all QAnons. They're all of them to the person. If they're not, it's either a bot, like a foreign run account, or a QAnon, or both. And like, I hit one today that was a real person, and I could tell by the, I looked at their account to see if they were a real person. And so he misspelled the word stolen in his most recent post about the rigged and stolen election. He put 2 L's in stolen. And the whole feed under his thing is a bunch of people going, stolen he did it on purpose. And the word stolen, if you do the numerological code, is 586, which leads to a QAnon post from January 22nd, and that it's January right now, and that one was in 2018, and it never fucking came true, and it's been 4 fucking years, but January 22nd is coming around again. It's not January 22nd. It's days away, but that's how we, anyway, so I obviously laughed at these fuckers and went, and I just had to say something, because there's a bunch of them. And I was like, okay, let me get this straight. So this dickhead, who is 90% ego, makes himself look like an asshole on purpose with shit like kofefe and misspelling normal words and shit grammar. Makes himself look like a complete dick to send codes to these kind of folks so that they can trace them to Q posts that never came true. That's the plan. That's what you guys worked out. That's the arrangement. That this fucking loser he was like, I know. If I use like first letters and they line them up and they actually do work, people will figure out the code. Like, I mean, I can't go straight up Zodiac killer on this. So how about this? How about every time I slapdash look like a dickhead writing something, we just pretend it was on purpose. That's it. What kind of response did you get? The first one I got was, because the first one I said, I was like gibberish. And the guy was like, how so? And the guy, well, let's see, shit, hold on. Let me see if, because, fuck, it won't come up. I won't be able to find my account on there. Yeah, shit. I'll post a picture of it after this. But the main idea that this guy came back with was, well, it got you talking about it, and that's the whole thing, is because you think we look silly, but you're the one spreading the message. And I'm like, okay, first of all, asshole, we're not talking about it. We're laughing about it. You look like an asshole. And it is a conversation point amongst people that, again, this moron willfully looks like a dickhead to the entire world so he can pass codes to a bunch of assholes who believe stuff that absolutely is not true on a material basis. This date came, this thing did not happen. This date came, this thing did not happen. It's not even fucking like, oh, maybe if you shuffle it, he meant in 1802 instead of 2018. Like, get the fuck out of here. So, his response was, we got you talking. And I'm like, we're talking about it, but we're talking about it like when you're eating fries and there's some burnt ones and you have a mild conversation about what's crispy, too crispy and burnt. You know that conversation that you've had dozens of times? And then, it doesn't harangue you. It doesn't affect how you vote. It's just kind of that's interesting, right? This is everything about Trump right now, to me, is like Harry and Meghan level stuff. Like it's toilet paper talk about the current something. The more people are calling you a dipshit, the more powerful you are. That's to some degree, that was their theory. Anyways, again, back to this guy who looks like he is shitting out words.
And his unsecured garage, right on the floor, piles of paper.
Okay, first of all, no, not right on the floor, piles of paper. That was your office, fuckwad. They show a picture of Biden pulling his Corvette out, and there were boxes, and there was a box in the garage. It's like a legal box. And everybody's saying that's where it was, because that's the box that's visible. But it's not at all where any of this shit was. Like, for all we fucking know, there's an attic space above the garage, and that's what they were talking about. They could be fucking file cabinets that are locked in the garage. Who cares? But the assumption is that it was that pile. This dipshit is literally thinking that he's just making this up. He's just saying that the box was on the floor, therefore the documents were on the floor, therefore that box was the one that had the documents in the first place. When we know for a fact he had boxes and had top secret documents hidden between photos that he had framed of him, giving a reach around to Kim Jong-un or whatever the fuck, and he'd hidden them in between to sneak them out in between these frames. That's where they were found, including these folders that were now empty, and they laid them out to show what was from this particular box. They put a little triangle, go, here's what we have, and he was like, I didn't spill these all over the floor, and motherfucker, this is an evidence gathering thing. They're keeping track of what they got from where. We all knew this. Anybody who's watched a fucking CSI or Law and Order episode knows this, and yet he's still griping about it. That's where this comes from.
The floor was probably very wet and damp, as many garages are.
This top secret, not only was the knock list exposed that gave away where our spies are hidden in the former Czech Republic and parts of Macedonia to kill Russian assassins, but they're wet. Oh, sticky.
When my ultra-secure Mar-a-Lago home was raided by the FBI, Joe Biden was harboring classified documents in his China-funded Penn Center and his unsecured garage, right on the floor, piles of paper. The floor was probably very wet and damp, as many garages are.
That's because a lot of times, I guess Trump can't hold his bladder when he rides back from the golf course, and he just pees in the garage on the tires of his golf cart.
Yet while I'm being persecuted by Trump-hating special counsel, I call them special prosecutors, but this one in particular is a prosecutor.
And no, he isn't. They'll have a prosecutor. There'll be somebody else that does this. But also, he's been trying to fire up the nickname machine again, and he thinks his latest, the unselect committee was the fucking latest magic. He is completely convinced. Remember, this is the man who hated the idea of MAGA. He didn't like Make America Great Again. He didn't like using that phrase. Somebody else talked him into it, and then it became totally associated with him. And occasionally during his speeches, we've seen him do it. He'll go, it wasn't, it wasn't all sold on it, but then I came around, and it's pretty good. That kind of shit, right? Meanwhile, he thinks Unselect Committee is fucking genius. But he also thinks that by, like, swapping people's job descriptions, it qualifies as a dig, as opposed to just whining.
Executed by Trump-hating special counsel. I call them special prosecutors, but this one in particular is a prosecutor and a Trump deranged person.
A Trump deranged person. Who qualifies as a Trump deranged person besides you? Kimberly? Yeah, Kimberly Guilfoyle seems like a Trump deranged person. Like her derangement was caused by her proximity to Trump's. A Trump deranged person of sorts of things.
They prosecute all sorts of things. He prosecuted war crimes and war criminals.
You're 55 seconds in. Cut. Let's go back to one. Let me get it fresh. Honestly, this train left the tracks a long fucking time ago. Who jerked the wheel?
Joe Biden, in the meantime, is being given white glove treatment by a establishment hack.
A establishment hack. I almost wish, this is just so nice. It's just so nice, if I may. Excuse me. I mean, of course. Come on. Is it that hard? Hold on.
He prosecuted war crimes and war criminals. Joe Biden, in the meantime, is being given white glove treatment by a establishment hack who tried to cover up the Russia hoax. He actually tried to cover it up.
Oh my God, had the nerve of him. And you appointed him. Is there no loyalty in the world? It's almost as if anybody that isn't family or equally up to their fucking larynx in criminality with this fucker hangs around him for a little while, gets a glimpse of what he's like and the kind of shit he does, and instantly goes, holy fuck, this guy's a criminal. In which case, Trump considers that person to be disloyal.
It's a travesty. Biden lied to the American people and weaponized the Justice Department, or as I call it, the Injustice Department.
Zing! Wow. First it was Unselect, now it's Injustice Department. It's, he's getting sharper all the time, you know. Gone are the days of weak sauce like Crooked Hillary and Little Marco. This is the new hotness. Fuck.
To go after me for the very crime he actually committed. And he wasn't president, so he didn't have the right to declassify.
Yeah, he did. Biden had the right to declassify and classify documents because Obama signed an executive order, I think it was 13352, that gave him that right. Hold on. One more time, if I may. Give me a second. This is going to be very disappointing. Biden did have the authority to declassify documents as vice president. Only difference is he's not claiming that's what he did. He's saying that those things were mistakenly removed, or copies of them were mistakenly kept with his other stuff, and that's why they returned them immediately.
Oh, shit.
This is a blah, 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 blah. Because of a 2009 executive order signed by President Barack Obama. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much. Now, Obama signs an executive order, gives Biden the right to classify and declassify documents. This happens before this man is president. He's president for 4 fucking years. Think of, if you will, the details you would know after you had been president for 4 years. Imagine you're president for 4 years after this guy. What do you think dinner conversation would be around White House staff and people who work there and guards, whatever the shit, cooks, the fucking Secret Service, shit talking this guy for 6 months after you left, or after he left, and you're sitting there, you're there. You wouldn't know that he had, what rights and privileges he had or thought he had. He wants to be unpeached, right? I call it the unpeachment.
As I did. The difference is that while I did everything right, I did nothing wrong.
Nothing. You're right. You did nothing wrong, and in a specific way. There's a specific area where Trump did nothing wrong. And it was one area, one where Republicans wanted him to do a lot of wrong things, and he managed to do almost none of them. Like the tax break and the you could argue that the Supreme Court, that was something that Mitch McConnell did. He did nothing unright. I call it unwrong.
Biden did everything wrong.
Wrong.
The boxers hoax should be dropped immediately against President Trump.
Are you reading someone else's notes? Or are we just going full, sports figure talking about yourself in the third person?
When I return to the White House, we will...
It's not going to happen. It is not going to happen. I'm just saying. Am I on a YouTube app?
In the era of partisan witch hunts, restore equal justice under the law and get back to government that delivers for the American people. And I mean securing our borders, creating millions and millions of jobs just like before.
You lost millions and millions of jobs. Oh, you mean before this video, what Biden is doing? I see. Before you tape this, Biden has already created millions and millions of jobs. Okay, I'm with you.
Growing wages, stopping violent crime, and making our country great again. That's what we want to do.
It's so what we want to do, and if only I had had 4 years where I was president of the United States and I had my hands on the controls and my fingers on the buttons and my grip on the pussy, you would have seen something so good. But unfortunately, I was never allowed to be the president I knew I could be because of the fake news and the meanness and quite frankly, a lot of golf. I was golfing a lot.
Make America great again. Thank you.
Oh, it's up to me now? Great.
Crap.
Okay. Well, I'm doing my best. I voted for people who are actually doing it. We do have an infrastructure bill now.
You didn't.
On the baseline.
Okay.
Let's just say everything in Biden's agenda is a fucking wash. It never amounts to anything. But he did manage to get all the lead pipes in the country taken out and replaced over his presidency. That alone, decade changing.
Shit.
Never mind all the other cool shit. And by the way, to all the QAnons who are now going, my God, the internet's gotten so fast lately. I can see how wrong I was so much quicker now, thanks to rural broadband. Good for you. That's it. That's the whole thing. Make America great again. Cut. It's magnificent. Now, if I may, welcome. You're watching House Sparks Mega Worldwide, by the way. Like, subscribe, give a thumbs up, do the thing. We had a hype train a second ago. I just saw that. Thank you so much. Don't forget, if you're on Twitch, subscribe, pass it around. By the way, if you watch on YouTube, one of the other ones or whatever, but you have Twitch, you can always just open it up in a side thing and turn the sound off and just bump my numbers up in viewers, because there's a watching number there that raises me up. I'm just saying, it's worth a little bit of subterfuge. Double your pleasure, double your fun. Don't turn the audio on, because I think it'll be off, because different channels run at different speeds, and it'll be this weird echo, and it'll be like you and I are alone discussing politics in a baseball stadium after the end of the world. It'll be odd. Anyways. So here we go. All right. This is Chip Roy. Chip Roy is carving out a space for himself to be I guess if he's the fan, he's the fan that catches turds. He's the one, when shit hits the fan, it's going to be Chip Roy. And he's the one that they are pushing out there and going, you say all the dipshit economic stuff that we don't actually believe / understand. Because you pretend, he pretends he understands and pretends it's a good idea. It's kind of stunning. This is him on Kudlow. I just saw his speech on the floor, so I don't doubt there'll be a little bit. But this is because they want to, for those of you who don't know, they've introduced this bill and they want to pass it. They're never going to pass it, but they want to vote on it. And it very well may get every Republican. I doubt it. But when they bring it to it, they want to just be able to put some tape of themselves on the floor during this process so they can rise and be seen while this bill's on the floor, and it'll act like they actually passed it to their constituents in these shitty little weird QAnon districts. And so that's why they want these things. These are they think they're printing ads for themselves. They are, but for their opponent, and that's another thing later. So they want to get rid of the income tax and the IRS, replace all the tax in the country with a 30% sales tax on everything. People below the poverty threshold will get a credit for necessary items and the tax on necessary items below a certain point. It will be up to the states to decide what qualifies as necessary. Yeah, so good luck with that. State houses are going to be determining what qualifies as food for poor people. Some of them will make it only the healthiest of foods and only fresh fruits and no processed foods, and you have to learn to cook and be a real person, blah, 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 and that's how they'll try to help. Others will insist on the cheapest, shittiest food you can possibly find so that they'll poison these folks over time with cancer and all kinds of stuff. It's just ridiculous. But the middle class would be completely fucked by this. They would have no way out, and they're the biggest consumer base. They pay for everything already, and then the upper 10% buy a lot of their shit outside the country. And what you're going to see is a lot of private planes and a lot of yachts that are all registered in the Bahamas from now on. That because they were purchased out of country.
For the results.
Yeah. And probably in a country that had a VAT tax, but they get refunded that VAT tax from there. So, anyways, I think this is the...
All right, welcome back. You heard some pretty pessimistic economic numbers in the last segment.
Yes. And this, by the way, is Larry Kudlow.
Bro.
And
the fuck? Oh.
That's all he does right now. He takes whatever
Didn't show the results.
economic data comes out and tries to make it look like shit. Even as the stock market remains at 33K and is on its way up.
Now the question is, can House Republicans possibly rescue the economy, which looks like it's going to need rescuing? So
it looks like it's going to need... Apparently it doesn't need rescuing now, but it looks like it's going to need rescuing from...
Let us ask Congressman Chip Roy from Texas.
Congressman.
Yeah. Chip Roy, welcome back.
He's got a copy of... he doesn't have his own book, so he's got Rick Perry's book up there. Isn't that nice?
Thank you
All
for
right, I think we
taking
missed
the
it
time.
there.
We appreciate it. I don't know if you
Yeah, he wasn't busy crafting legislation.
heard any of the numbers out today. Everything
We'll mess
fell.
with this one.
Retail sales fell. Manufacturing fell. Business investment fell. It's not a good story. All right.
No, it's terrible. It's just everything's falling and dying and death and destruction and sad and broken.
Having said that,
Most of my friends make money when things crash. It's right. We look forward to the dip, but you being a dip probably don't.
we'd love to cut spending and taxing and regulating. Let me get you. Have you seen this White House press memo attacking you guys? You haven't really put your policies up yet. They're saying
They've put up the commitment to America, and they've actually posted the bill that they want to vote on. And they've been talking about it for a while, and everybody in the House knows, like all the Democrats know, they can see the legislation these assholes are putting forward. They've seen the drafts. They're on committees too.
Republicans want to increase gas prices because you don't like to sell Spro, I guess. Protect the rich tax cheats because of the IRS. You're going to raise taxes on the middle class. That's the fair tax. And on top of all,
Yeah, it's fair. The middle class should continue to pay for everything. They should just have to do more of that.
all that, Chip, you're going to cut Social Security and Medicare.
Now, here's the problem. Chip Roy wants to cut Social Security and Medicare. He wants to. That's a box Kudlow puts him in. So he's not going to give Kudlow that, no, we don't, that's a lie, kind of standard lie from Republicans.
The White House notes from the press office. I just want to give you a chance to rebut all this stuff.
And interesting how, by the way, on MSNBC and CNN, the phrase I always hear is, this is what they're saying, I want to give you a chance to respond. You guys notice that? Is it just me? I want to give you a chance to respond to this. This is what they're saying. What's your response? What do you respond to? Like, even the Chuck Todds and the, like, Katie Turs to some degree, and Andrea Mitchells talk like that. Kudlow is bringing Chip Roy on for Republican damage control, which is nuts to begin with. It just shows how, detached from reality Kudlow is. But notice he said debunk.
Well, Larry, good to be on as always. Look, that's the playbook Democrats always use, right? They go back to the same old well. And what we're actually about is trying to free up the American people from the stranglehold that the federal government has placed on them.
Yes, your Social Security checks are a burden, old people. And if you were just free to die, you'd know that life was really worth living. You'd never appreciate it more than when you're on the edge of a can of cat food with a spoon.
Done that a number of ways. One, dumping trillions of dollars into the economy in the name of COVID, which caused most of this inflationary mess in the first place.
Okay, first of all, that was under Donald Trump as well. And again, $6 trillion to patch a $20 trillion hole. If what he's saying was true about monetary inflation, the dollar would be at 80 cents right now. It is not. There are not enough dollars in circulation, even with extended UI for a year and a half. This is a dead talking point. It's been a dead talking point for a long fucking time. And our current inflation, like, the measures were about fuel costs because of the war, the supply chain being, and the shock from it being basically snapped during COVID. And then, going forward, moving away from, having factories in China and moving them someplace else, the costs ensued there, that's all going to be part of the extra cost you're going to see in things. Never mind fucking eggs, which is caused by an outbreak of avian flu.
Crowding out private investment, limiting the ability of the private...
That's what it is. Private investment can't compete with the federal dollars that are coming in, because once the Fed comes in,
1,000 players.
There's all the profits are eaten up.
sector to go forth and conquer and to produce prosperity and wealth and manage the market the way it's supposed to, not without the government interfering. And
also, that's like a piece from like Ayn Rand Cliff Notes, but does not fucking pertain to any detail that he gives or that he's given so far anyways.
importantly, We shouldn't be spending money we don't have to.
Okay, he has a mortgage. Larry has shit tons of debt. Shut the fuck up. And like this, we shouldn't be spending money we don't have. Everyone with a mortgage and whose kids are going to college and who have a car payment is technically spending money they don't have yet. And you pay interest on that money so that you can borrow it from someone now because you'll have it eventually, but you don't want to have to pay off a $46,000 car over your entire lifetime.
To fund the alphabet soup of regulations that is strangling our economic growth.
All right, also, you're not funding regulations. That's just weird. How many inspectors does he
51?
think are actually out there on the beat? Is it
See
a
if it jumps up some
one-to-one
more
with
in the
every
next 2
business
minutes.
person and employee on the fucking planet?
You mentioned it right before this segment, where you're talking about all of the climate change.
So in an hour, you're just going to keep playing the same people. I mean, I guess nothing wrong with that, but if they're boring-ass matches, then you're just stuck.
Change in the woke regulations that are strangling the ability of the American people to do their job. That's
Again, what woke regulation is keeping you from doing your fucking job? As a matter of fact, the only woke regulations they seem to be railing against are ones where
What the fuck
people
is that?
refuse to do their fucking job. I bake cakes and I do wedding cakes and birthday cakes, but I ain't doing no gay wedding. It's not the woke regulation that's keeping you from working. Your bigotry is keeping you from working, and the regulation is saying, bake a fucking cake and sell it, asshole.
I think the important part that's missing here. We're all about empowering the American people, all levels across the entirety of the spectrum, and make sure.
Yeah, we're just trying to, that's the problem. Americans are strong, but right now they've been made weak by the federal government and the overreach.
All right.
Because
Maybe it'll...
you know what's stopping drivers from really getting where they're going? Traffic lights and yellow lines. We need to get Larry, we need to free them up. Okay? These federal regulations about staying on your side of the street when you're going 70 miles an hour, if you have to even go 70 miles an hour, I could get there 100 miles an hour if my truck's big enough and my horn's loud enough. Fuck them.
Sure that they can go create wealth and opportunity rather than having the government doing what it's doing right now, which is what it always does. My entire lifetime, government is the problem. We need to...
No, it isn't. Chip Roy's full of shit. The government, Chip Roy is alive right now because of regulations. There are a ton of regulations just around traffic, airlines, food safety, fucking hospital sanitation rules, the structural integrity of buildings, fucking cleanliness of standard water pipes. Get the fuck out of here. Chip Roy, would be dead without these regulations. Period. End of fucking story. Chip Roy thinks that, and I genuinely believe this, Chip Roy is one of the people who believes in the China miracle. He thinks they really are just they don't have all these rules. They just build shit and it's fucking awesome. Never mind the fact that they built an industrial ring of factories around Beijing, had no rules about the air filtration and getting the pollution down from any of those factories. So
Snapchat.
it literally meant that no
Look at
matter
this.
which way
Quit
the wind
sending
blew,
me messages or
toxic
notifications
fumes
at the
were
same
blowing
fucking
across
time
Beijing. It
every
did not matter.
goddamn day.
East,
If I didn't
west, north,
check it
south,
yesterday, I'm not
northeast
gonna
to
check it
southwest.
today.
It didn't matter.
Seriously.
There was always some smog to blow straight into the center of the city, and the heat from the outer ring would trap it there. That's what Chip Roy wants.
Get that out of the way. Stop spending money we don't have.
Money we don't have. Jesus Christ. Dude, you literally... If he's got a mortgage and he probably pays rent as well, which means he doesn't have the money to buy a house because he's renting. I mean, at what point does this fucking analogy just croak? But all of his clothes are bought with money he doesn't have. But that he's going to have at some point, and that you can pay it off over time.
So we just want to put common sense reforms in place, limits.
Yes, common sense. Common sense.
Have a good night, my dude.
Comments, it depends on what kind of comments we're talking about.
Spending at FY22 levels at the top line. You can have the defense spending you need to defend us against China. Limit the non-defense discretionary. Drop that down to pre-COVID levels. Boom, you're cooking with peanut oil. You cut the money from the bureaucrats, you fund your defense, and you get out of the way of the American people.
Yeah, listen.
Which is almost, and by the way, you cannot do that.
Fucking dude creeping.
And not raise the debt ceiling. That the pre-COVID levels, Donald Trump's cost for the government, his deficit, his yearly deficit, was higher than Biden's. If you go back to that, and they were climbing because they needed to, because he was artificially trying to choke them down, because they were just slashing internally. That's why they thought they could solve some shit. Or they were just kind of undercutting DHS and national defense, and that was part of his fucking pro-Russia plan, very possibly. But in general, if you go back to those days, we're still going to have to raise the debt ceiling, not just this year, but next year too. The deficit under Biden will have to be raised if we want 2019 numbers.
I mean, our friend Kevin Hassett, former CEA chair, has suggested, first of all, make a fight on the debt ceiling, and I'm with him on that. Make a fight. There has to be a showdown.
By the way, that's because Larry Kudlow knows that it can't last. It'll be a temporary thing. But if you drag it out and it does fuck the market, he can buy in on a bunch of shit. He and his rich buddies can totally float through it. They just think, this time, a week, they can get through a week. But if you go to 2 weeks, the fucking market will take a giant shit, and you got the Democrats over a barrel. And what we'll do is we'll have a bunch of cash on hand because you'll tell us that you're going to do it and for how long, and we'll know exactly the day to buy back in. Because that's a huge part of this, is that this coordination between rich fucks like Kudlow and Hannity and all these guys with the Chip Roys of the world makes it so that they know the exact timing of the debt limit fight. So they can play the fucking, monetary reaction and the market reaction like a fucking fiddle because they've got the sheet music.
So for every dollar increase in debt, cut spending by $3. Last night, your colleague Scott Perry was on the show, and he said, fine, how about cutting spending by $4? And I'm saying, okay, that's great. Joe Biden doesn't even want to talk to you all.
And by the way, Perry says that because he's serious about it. He just wants to sound like all of it's unnecessary. The federal government is unnecessary. The U.S. government does nothing but wrong, and again, he and Perry would both be dead a long time ago if it wasn't for all the protections the federal and the state governments provided him over the course of their fucking life, and just fucking seatbelts alone, which these dickheads are like, we need to repeal that shit so other people can die. Everybody who walks up to you and says, when I was a kid, we didn't have any of these rules. It was this. We used to, you didn't helmets and fucking seatbelts and child seats and fucking we didn't have any of that shit. Yeah, you know what we also had at that point? A lot fewer people. It's very interesting if you look at when government regulations started to be taken seriously and amounted to fucking something, how quickly the population rose. Because more people survived childhood and car accidents and plane flights. Thank you, Kara. Appreciate that.
As far as I can tell,
Kara.
Kevin McCarthy is willing to go to the White House and talk and negotiate.
Right. He's the speaker. And Biden will be talking to him about this stuff because he's the Speaker of the House. Why he would talk to the Sedition Caucus about any of this shit when they don't have the other 90% of their own fucking party on board is dumb. Not their problem. Biden and Harris both passed a great portion of their wish list for this 4-year presidency already. There are very few things they have to negotiate with these dickheads on. Because if they just roll a CR next year and the year after, which is more than likely what's going to happen, there will be plenty of money to fund everything, and things will continue to roll smoothly. And talking to like the dig in your heels caucus is like, Rand Paul and others like him in the Senate for years have done basically silent filibusters. They put holds on shit. Ted Cruz does it too. They don't put their name on it. They don't go, Ted Cruz, am holding up this thing or this bill or whatever. They say it on the down low, on the side. And then, so they never get called out for, why is this not going through? They can hide behind them. The White House knows this. The Trump White House knew this. The Obama White House knew this. Bush knew it. It's a regular thing. But you're not going to sit down with those people and have them dial it back because there is no open conversation about it. You have it with the leadership. And the leadership is supposed to whip their people.
Have a good night, my dude.
No. Biden doesn't want to even acknowledge there's a Republican House now. So,
yeah, there isn't. You squeaked by, and it was largely by gerrymandered districts. And even in the new gerrymandered districts, what did you get? You got George Santos, fucko. You got a bunch of noisemakers. People who they want to be on committees shouting with their jacket off at people who are innocent of the charges that they're putting forward, while back home, people like Jim Jordan have like rape scandals that they have avoided talking about.
Get them hovering.
What do you think
I'm
about the
down
debt
with that
ceiling?
shit.
Tomorrow's it's not the end of the world, but tomorrow the debt hits its own limit. I mean, you're going to make a stand on that. And I think it probably would help the economy, frankly. Maybe I'm wrong, but
He's wrong. But it would help his economy. Let's understand that. And this is a story, by the way, as Democrats, and that Democrats in the House and the Senate and even in the White House, I recommend to anyone who's listening, and I know you do sometimes, I recommend you remind everyone that of course people like Trump and Kudlow and Sean Hannity and the Fox News people and the people that run it and Rupert Murdoch and all that crowd want these guys to crash the economy because they don't believe it'll be permanent and they know they can buy the dip. While everyone else is struggling, while Social Security checks don't get out, while VA checks don't go out, while the credit rating of the entire fucking country hangs in the balance, these motherfuckers are opportunistic investors looking to basically short the fucking United States, while, I might add, wrapping themselves in the fucking flag.
go with it.
Yeah, I think there's no question that it would help the economy. Look, people that start handling.
Yeah, I had a couple of questions, and yeah, there's a lot of questions, and the idea that you think there's no question, you're a fucking moron.
Bringing about the whole default on the debt. We're not going to default on the debt. We can prioritize debt. In fact, current law allows for the prioritization of paying your debt payments. We're not going to default. They do this all the time. And in fact, the reason that the Democrats are hitting the gas to do the fear mongering.
The scaremongering. By the way, this will probably happen June, July, around that time. And they're going to actually have to raise the debt limit to deal with this. The prioritization of spending would happen between now and then so that you wouldn't have to, or you could punt when you had to. They're not doing any of that. The House is in session, the Republicans are in control of it, and none of them are presenting ways specifically other than they're literally presenting bills that will go fucking nowhere, like wiping out the IRS and replacing it with a VAT tax. It's cartoonish. But none of them are in committees doing, line budget lowering for the the stuff next year so that they can leverage money they're going to have from next year to pay down some of the debt this year, which keeps it from having to go up. None of that is happening.
Scare tactics is because they saw us successfully wrestle control of the message 2 weeks ago, work with Kevin McCarthy, work a deal where we could agree that we were going to make spending restraint our top priority to make sure that we limit the spending.
No, they are not creating a message because you were successful in making Kevin McCarthy look like an idiot. They are talking about the reality that Kevin McCarthy is being controlled by a minority of assholes in his own party who want ill for the United States and are happy to mask that ill in patriotism.
That is currently funding the bureaucrats that are funding woke, weaponized, and wasteful spending, undermining the American people. We should use the debt ceiling to limit that spending, and then we should be on offense talking about what this means for the American people. Again, you can't gloss over what you just said about the climate change, worshiping and the woke policies that are under.
Yeah, I didn't gloss over it. I kind of, like, my eyes glazed over it. It's the same fucking bullshit.
Undermining our ability to create wealth.
But again, what about that is undermining our ability to create wealth? Isn't it just other areas to make wealth if you have an entrepreneurial spirit and you're strong and resilient?
Right here in Texas, we're going to be looking at 50%.
Oh, okay, because he's from an oil and gas state.
Of our grid being wind and solar by the end of 2023. And I'm sure all the green folks are clapping. But you know what that means? You don't have reliable power when you end up with a big winter storm or a heat wave in the summer.
By the way, according to this asshole, eventually Texas isn't going to have reliable power. Someday. That's a danger.
We need to make sure we've got the right policies to create wealth and create economic opportunity. People, we've got those policies, and it starts with spending restraint in Washington. Stop spending money we don't have.
Yeah, again, that stop spending money we don't have nonsense is. And by the way, there's ways to get it. You can raise taxes on billionaires.
You know, Chip, if you see a recession coming and the numbers today had a definite recession feel, this thing could.
They had a definite recession feel to them. Motherfucker, I thought we had one last year. Aren't we still in one from fucking 2 quarters of negative growth or right? Of lower growth in a row? Weren't we supposed to have, didn't we have a recession last year? We still don't fucking have one?
Come on faster. I don't know, but they were bad numbers. I'd want to cut spending. I'd want to cut taxing.
Yeah, but you worked with the last guy and he fucking lost.
I'd want to cut regulations. Okay? Boom, boom, boom.
Yeah, that seems simple enough. Just cut that stuff. Cut spending. Okay, what spending? Well, obviously, you got to go after the big ones. To just pare down Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid. Those are your biggest ones. Obviously, after that, defense is the next biggest part of it. The rest of the discretionary budget would make a fucking dent. Boom. What regulations? The ones that keep banks from getting into the credit default swap business again? What regulations? What the fuck? Also, these aren't, and the anti-development regulations that happen a lot, LA has some of the worst that keeps people from building apartment buildings. Leftover earthquake shit from decades ago. Never mind the modern, the modern architectural and engineering feats that have been created in the last few decades that allow you to build safe, responsive architecture in earthquake zones. They're still using the same rules about building, length of time for, going through a project and testing it that are back from the 50s. That's a city one. There's no federal regulation would affect that. And that's how most big cities especially, and their suburban outlays, unless you write a law that's a new regulation that forces development on cities, which if the Republicans want to float that shit, go for it. What regulations? What? Nobody can vote twice.
Tax cuts, John F. Kennedy, Ronald Reagan, Donald Trump. Heck, I'll go all the way back to Warren Harding and Calvin Coolidge.
By the way, somewhere in the order of 30% of our national debt was created during the Trump administration. Part of it was COVID. The other part of it was his unpaid for tax cut, which triggered a recession, and it's why he was screaming at the Fed to give us negative interest rates. Talk about printing fucking money.
They cut spending and cut taxes.